Hi guys, tonight I'm talking about gender and the division of labor in context of gender. And the reason I chose this is because I've got a little example that I kind of want to talk about a little bit, that I have mentioned in a previous video and in a couple of my reflection papers. So I'm excited to share that with you. But let's start off with the textbook. Page 227 through 229 discusses gender roles within the family and traditional gender roles in the workforce, the labor force. Within the family, in many cultures, women's work is different from men's work. Women usually do the housework, cooking, having kids, raising those kids. Men go do the grunt work, are usually the sole financial providers for the family. They go to work, they come home, go to work, come home. The women stay at home, provide for the family in that context. And in the workforce, 228 mentions how women and men are still separated in many cultures. Women work with women, men work with men. Women maybe do factory work, more tedious, detail-oriented, maybe like weaving, or like production lines in a factory maybe. And men do traditionally masculine tasks like, I don't know, like bricklaying, working in a lumber yard, construction, things that would be deemed more masculine and less traditionally feminine. There's really not much of a gray area of an in-between the masculine and feminine gender roles. And continued on through 229, the point is made that because women's work is deemed less difficult, they exert less energy doing the roles, they are paid less in most cultures, and men are usually paid more because they're doing harder work than women are. And I think that's a really important point to bring up, because we talk about the pay gap between the genders here in the U.S., that women are paid a portion of what men are paid, generally like large scale, large scoped, right? Whereas in other countries, women are literally making like less than half of what their male counterparts are making. Not necessarily for the same work, because remember I mentioned that men usually have different roles in the workplace than women do. Therefore, management justifies paying men more than women, and that's the justification. It's not like sexism. They're not saying that they're sexist, which is debatable. But I would definitely recommend going over 229 quite a bit. And then 230 goes into gender and social status in public policy, and how women usually don't hold status or positions of power or of influence in most cultures, that men usually hold the power, and because of that have higher public standing than women do, or women who pursue being public figures. So I mentioned that I wanted to bring something up. I talk about this time and time again. I'm Ukrainian, something I'm very proud of. And in the Ukraine, and I know I mentioned this before, women are taught to be tough and to hold power in the family, to fight to be viewed as an equal to males in their lives. I didn't grow up in Ukraine. My family did, second gen, so the U.S. is the culture that I've grown up in. These are stories and influences that my grandparents have had in my life. But in Ukraine, girls go to school probably through like the end of elementary, and then boys go through like the end of what we would consider middle school, and then come back to work. And this is more in like rural areas, not so much in like the urban industrialized area. So we're from the border where Hungary borders Ukraine, so we're like kind of down south, or at least that's where we're from. So my grandparents talk about this a lot because it's just funny to listen to them talk. But excuse me. So like my grandma, she finished out her school in elementary school, and then came back home. And traditionally, girls, since the boys are gone at school, the girls are the farm hands. They work the machinery, so like tilling the garden, or wrangling up cows, getting them, back into their stables or their pasture, wherever cows go. I don't know, but they do the hard work that boys usually do, right? Yeah, they cook, they clean, they take after the kids, but it's rural Ukraine, it's farmland, and they do all of the hard physical work that men traditionally in the U.S. we would think what farmers would do or wranglers would do, right? The women do it, girls do it, and they take pride in it, and they're respected for it. Men respect them for the work they do, and the boys come back and they don't replace them. They work alongside them. And I don't know if it's because they were part of the USSR, and socialism was a big part of their culture when they were still absorbed by Russia, and I don't know. I don't know if that's part of it, that to each their own, interdependent type upbringing led into that. From what I'm learning, that's what it sounds like. But yeah, so like women are valued for their work, and they're considered equals, and yeah, they do traditionally men's work. Men don't in turn do women's work. Men don't do traditionally feminine tasks like cooking or cleaning. They come home and they do their, the men's work, the traditional masculine type work. But I think it's cool that women are respected in the country that I'm from, and that's generally speaking, and that's the way my grandparents grew up and their families, and that's part of our culture, and I'm proud of it. So I'm glad I got to share that with you guys, and I'll see you later.